And three, two, one, and we're live. That seems like such an important thing for people to start to put into their own lives, because I do think that we're in a point in time right now where people are less accountable and taking less responsibility for their community. Maybe not Chilliwack, but as a culture as a whole, I think we're passing the blame to government officials way more than I think we should, because you're driving around and seeing these things and saying like, hey, I might have preferred it be this way, or just even having that thought in your mind is something that we should be doing as a community, and giving more of our voice. Because another thing you mentioned in that one around Chilliwack interview was the lack of voting, and the lack of turnout is huge. And but all the people who don't vote still have their opinions and still complain on Facebook and Instagram. And so that's where I see that divide between that sense of community responsibility. So what are your thoughts on that, as we just had another election a couple of years ago, on how that's developed?
Hmm. Yeah, that's always been a kind of something that's bothered me is the lack of participation in especially the local government elections. And I said this like a long time ago. I don't believe it's because people don't care. I know that people care because I get hear and see the evidence of that every day in my role. So people do care. But for a whole host of reasons, we've had pretty poor voter engagement over the years, and it's not unique to Chilliwack. It happens across the province, where it's for whatever reason, local government elections are just not as sexy as the provincial and federal ones. And um, I think one of the one of the things that I find discouraging about that is that people feel sometimes they feel disconnected and feel that no matter what they do, what the governments or the politicians are going to be politicians, and nobody's going to care and nobody's going to listen to them and that kind of thing. And I think that's discouraging for people who put their name out and just want to try and do their best. And I think all across this province, and I've worked regionally, and I've worked provincially, the overwhelming majority of my colleagues that work in local government are just regular people trying to do their very best, and trying to make do, and trying to make their community a better place, to live in than the day before. And I think as long as we kind of simplify, and hold that kind of ethic in our hearts, that we just want to try and make the place a little bit better, and the quality of life a little bit better for all of our residents, then I think we're doing okay. But the disconnect is hard. I don't know what, there are many people who trying to solve that problem. And I tend to, when problems get too vast and overwhelming, my reaction is always, I think we need to pare it down. I think we pare it back, simplify, and just focus on ourselves, focus on being, like you said, trying to be a good role model, trying to do the right thing, taking it day at a time, that kind of thing. So,
Well, and I really like that about city council now, is because you all are kind of role models for different areas. You all represent different interests and different aspects of the community. And I think that we're lucky enough to have such low voter turnout, but yet have such positive representation. And I think that that's one of the benefits of living in a smaller community, is we to me, we get lucky by having people like yourself who do choose to run despite the low voter turnout, and do choose to act ethically, responsibly, and try and build up the community. Regardless of how many people turned out to vote, you're still acting in the best interest of the community. And I think that that needs to be way more recognized than I think it is often in the newspaper and other media sources, is a lot of condemnation of a decision and less appreciation for the fact that at least you did it with an honest mind and trying to come up with whatever's going to be best for Chilliwack, despite whether or not it always is or not.
yeah, I think I said this early on to people. I said, you know what? I guarantee you're not going to always agree with the votes that the voting decisions that I make. I guarantee it 100%. So if you think you're voting for me because you're going to believe in every single thing that I believe in, it's just not possible. Well, but what I will promise to you is that you'll never be taken by surprise. Like, I'll never not take an opportunity to explain if we talk about what I was thinking and the logic I was using to come to a decision. So while we might not always agree, I'll try my very best to not take you by surprise, and not to put in the time and effort into researching an issue, and to make the best decision that I think reflects best across the broad majority of citizens that in Chilliwack. It's not just what I think is the best. It's trying to incorporate what I'm hearing and discussing with the residents in the city of Chilliwack. So try not to take people too much by surprise. I think people may disagree with some of the votes and the positions that I've taken, but I don't think many people are ultimately surprised when I make them. So
yeah, that's one thing I wanted to ask about, because you are making decisions, but for the most part, they're educated, and maybe some of your critics have not researched, they have not had the opportunity to read the documents you had the chance to look over, and so they're still very frustrated with the outcome. And so I was hoping just to ask about what kind of information you receive when you're making a decision, just to give people a better understanding of that it is coming from somewhere. It's not just, well, I don't like the Paramount today, so I'm going to...
That's what I felt like today. Yeah,
exactly. It's not like that. So could you tell us a little bit about the process of making these decisions? Because I think a lot of viewers understand that you're a city councillor, but I don't know if they understand the depths in which the process goes and how rigid it can be at points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're balancing a whole host of different information. Like, obviously, a large source of information that we get is from our qualified professional staff that we hire for the city of Chilliwack. They have professional designations. They've worked in the field for many, many, many years. They're acting in policy and guidelines, and in alignment with their professional standards that that they're required to, and so they're giving their information. They're providing their reports to us as councillors. We're also getting the same kind of level of information in certain cases from the different consulting firms and contractors that we partner with at the city of Chilliwack. And then the other huge source of information we're getting is from the citizens, from people who are on the ground, neighbors, residents, people who phone us up and say, hey, come and walk the property with me. I want to show you something that you may not have seen inside this staff report. So come see it from our perspective, and how it may impact us, and how it may look from the neighborhood perspective. So, and then there's a whole host of public feedback and interaction that happens prior to a lot of the decisions, and then we're at the point where you're making a decision. You've got public hearings, so you've got people who are coming at the time of decision making to weigh in after they've had the opportunity to read and look over some of the reports that are coming. So the process is there's a whole host of things that go into to making a decision. And I mean, I don't want you to think that I believe that I've always made the best correct, right decisions all the time. There's a whole host of times when I go home at night after a long public hearing, and I sit and reevaluate what's happened that evening, and you stay up, running it through in your head, thinking, because no matter what's happened, usually you've disappointed somebody along the way. So there are lots of times when I'm sure that people have been a little bit challenged when not just me, but our council has made decisions. And but it doesn't just happen frivolously. It happens after a bunch of research goes into it. So
well, and that's probably a tough position for you to be in, because you are having your decision made public and reviewed, where if I mess up and I make a poor decision, nobody ever hears about it unless I tell them. And so you are in this weird circumstance of having any decision you make reviewed and judged and critiqued, regardless of how much. And sometimes that's done without the background of how you came to the decision, what thoughts you went through. Is that ever difficult to come to a decision and then kind of regret it, or have a position that you like that does sound keep you up and bother you? What is that like?
yeah, it's just like anything, any decision you make in life, right? I think certainly politicians are not immune to it. It's just that we're not supposed to ever admit that we're wrong, right? Like that's the thing. It's you know. I think this is probably why people have such a challenge with politicians in general, because you're not supposed to admit when you've made a mistake, because in general people are not as forgiving, I think, of the political class when they screw up. But surprise, we screw up, right? And it happens, and I think. Rather than judge somebody on making the mistake, it's you judge them on what they do after that and the character. And if they're able to come forward to the community and say, listen, this is something where I didn't properly evaluate perhaps the impacts, and I really wanted to be able to do this again. And in some cases, you have the ability to reevaluate and bring it back for a second kick at the can and redo something that you made a mistake on. But in a lot of cases, people are very hesitant, especially again, when I think about politicians across all different stripes, that it's very hesitant to admit that, hey, I may have made a mistake here, or I may not have made the same decision had I been able to do it again. I do that on a regular basis, and I think the important thing is to be able to stand up in front of the community and say, listen, I don't think that was the right thing, and I'd like to try again. I'd like to do it over. I don't know anybody in their life who doesn't make mistakes, right? You try not to make the same one twice, but